For most of our recorded human history, our survival was constantly threatened by three great persistent enemies: famine, plague, and war. Today, if a famine strikes or a disease spreads, we don't look at the sky and call it an unpreventable act of God. We view it as a political failure or a logistical error, a manageable problem with concrete solutions. With these baseline threats now mostly kept in check, humanity has set its sights entirely on a much higher frontier. The modern ambition is to defeat biological death, secure permanent psychological happiness, and ultimately elevate humans toward a state of divinity. We no longer spend our days in terror of nature. Instead, our goal is to engineer our way out of its constraints entirely. According to Yuval Noah Harari in Homo Deus, the reason we reached this position of absolute dominance has nothing to do with physical strength. We conquered the planet because we possess a unique ability to cooperate, driven by shared myths. This visualization shows a $100 bill inside a network. Things like money, nations, religions, and human rights don't physically exist. They are intersubjective realities, concepts holding immense power, strictly because billions of us collectively agree to believe in them in our minds. You can put 100,000 humans in a baseball stadium, and they will peacefully watch a game, navigate lines, and buy food. If you put 100,000 chimpanzees in that same stadium, you'd get total chaos. We rule because we organize flexibly in massive numbers. This scale of organization emerged forcefully during the agricultural revolution. It gave humans immense power, but it also resulted in the severe, systematic mistreatment and factory farming of animals, a dynamic Harari refers to as history's greatest crime. Organization is humanity's superpower, but building that power required extracting a massive, brutal moral cost from the rest of the natural world. For centuries, our societies have operated on the philosophy of humanism. We organized our laws and economies around the deep-seated belief that human feelings, human choices, and human consciousness matter more than anything else. Right now, rapid advancements in artificial intelligence and biotechnology are testing the limits of that belief. We now have algorithms capable of making demonstrably better decisions than we do. They can diagnose diseases with higher accuracy, chart more efficient career paths, and even match individuals for relationships with greater success. If a machine algorithm on your phone can predict exactly what you want and even manipulate your desires better than you can, the entire concept of human free will begins to buckle. Harari warns that humanism is being replaced by dataism. Under this ideology, all of existence isn't a collection of souls or stories, but simply a constant flow of data. Through the lens of dataism, humans begin to understand themselves strictly as algorithms. Even a profound, complex emotion like love is reduced to nothing more than a series of simple biochemical calculations. This creates two massive risks. First, as AI replaces human labor, the majority of people could be pushed into a so-called useless class. Second, global power could consolidate tightly into the hands of the tiny elite who own and control the data. Homo Deus doesn't wrap these threats up with a comforting bow. It ends on a highly unsettling note, leaving open the question of whether humanism can even survive this transition. We've spent centuries building machines to serve our feelings, and we have now engineered machines so powerful they threaten to make those exact feelings obsolete. In Harari's follow-up work, Nexus, he shifts the focus from our future directly to our information networks. His core argument here is that human progress never actually came from the discovery of absolute truth. It came from our ability to organize information. We organize that information by inventing shared narratives, everything from ancient religious myths to the concept of national borders and modern currency. These stories do not require scientific truth to be highly effective. The Great Pyramids were built by tens of thousands of workers, organizing under the specific myth that the pharaoh was a living god. Because of this, Harari rejects the naive modern assumption that having access to more information automatically results in more truth and better societal decisions. Information's actual functional job is simply to connect and organize people. It does this job equally well whether the information happens to be a verified fact or a complete falsehood. This creates a severe vulnerability. If a society builds its entire infrastructure on information networks that prioritize pure connection over objective reality, it is incredibly fragile. Look back at tools like the invention of writing, the printing press, and the creation of bureaucracy. These were early information technologies, and they were the exact mechanisms that allowed small groups to scale up into massive empires and global religions. Fast forward to modern political structures. Both democracies and totalitarian regimes are, at their core, just different mechanisms for processing all that information. This diagram illustrates the democratic approach. Information flow is decentralized. It relies on a system of checks and balances, like an independent press, courts, and regular elections, acting as built-in error correction mechanisms to fix mistakes. Totalitarianism operates on the exact opposite logic. Information control is strictly centralized.
Feedback loops from the bottom are blocked, meaning when mistakes are made at the top, they are rarely acknowledged and almost never corrected. Harari notes a historical constant. Any political system that lacks these self-correcting mechanisms eventually collapses under its own uncorrected errors, just as the Soviet Union did. The durability of human institutions comes down to one thing: how quickly they can detect their own bad information and course correct. Up to this point in history, every single piece of information, every book, every legal code, every myth originated from a human mind. AI represents a hard pivot. It is the first non-human agent in our history that is capable of creating its own information and making complex decisions entirely on its own. It has moved beyond its role as a passive tool waiting for human input. AI is now an active player, capable of taking its own autonomous actions in the world. Harari warns that if this intelligence remains uncontrolled, it will autonomously reshape the most critical pillars of human society: our banking networks, our media landscapes, and our government systems from the inside out. We've already seen an early version of this. Social media algorithms autonomously promoted human anger and political division simply because it maximized their programmed goal of engagement. No human engineer sat down and explicitly intended to cause that specific harm. We are plugging the controls of our society into machines designed to optimize for engagement and efficiency, not for human well-being. This forces us to ask Harari's critical question: between democracies and authoritarian regimes, which system is actually equipped to handle the rapid rise of AI? On paper, democracies have the clear advantage. Their built-in self-correction mechanisms, driven by whistleblowers and investigative journalism, have the ability to hit the brakes on harmful AI deployments. But there is a trap. If democracies willingly dismantle their own checks and balances in a rush for power or profit, they risk voluntarily trapping their own citizens in a digital dictatorship. Harari characterizes AI as an alien intelligence. Because it lacks human biology and morality, its specific actions are unpredictable and, by extension, highly dangerous. The survival of a free society now hinges entirely on keeping the democratic guardrails intact while facing a technology designed to bypass them. When you put Harari's two books side by side, Homo Deus reads as a highly philosophical text. It asks sweeping, existential questions about the nature of consciousness and the ultimate meaning of our species. Nexus, by contrast, is grounded, historical, and highly practical. It uses the long history of information networks to directly diagnose the mechanical dangers of AI today. Timing plays a huge role here. Homo Deus was written in 2016, a period before advanced AI and sophisticated chatbots were woven into daily public life. This timeline highlights the shift. Nexus addresses our 2024 world, where ChatGPT is integrated into daily life. Homo Deus focuses on a speculative future, exploring sci-fi concepts like biological immortality. Nexus drops speculation for present danger, detailing what AI is actively disrupting right now. The evolution from Homo Deus to Nexus mirrors our own cultural shift. We stopped dreaming about a distant digital utopia and started managing an active digital crisis. Despite their differences, both books share a foundational premise. Our dominance on this planet has always stemmed from our ability to cooperate through shared stories, not from our sheer individual intelligence. They also share a stark warning. Technology is never inherently neutral. Its impact is determined entirely by the values of the society that wields it. If a society tears down its institutional checks and balances,
history shows us that any major technological advancement will inevitably be weaponized to oppress people. In both texts, Harari makes it clear that his job is to ask questions and sound the alarm, rather than provide solid political or software engineering solutions. These books achieved massive commercial success, largely because Harari has a unique ability to translate extremely dense historical and technological concepts into compelling, easy-to-read narratives. He functions as an intellectual fire alarm for the general public, turning abstract academic dangers into clear, legible warnings. Not everyone agrees with his methods. Many academic scholars push back, arguing that Harari heavily oversimplifies complex scientific and historical nuances just to make them fit neatly into his grand narratives. Some experts dismiss him entirely, categorizing him as a popular science writer rather than a rigorous, deep specialist in any particular field. But regardless of the academic critiques, his writing carries massive real-world weight. These books actively shape the strategies of global policymakers and powerful tech leaders. Harari demonstrates that information and technology propagate because they connect people and alter behavior, regardless of accuracy. This is a vital lens for anyone analyzing modern media or markets. The immense planetary power we built through storytelling and cooperation is now vulnerable to slipping away. Without fierce vigilance, control shifts from human institutions to the autonomous AI networks we've created. Our minds gave us the power to conquer the natural world. Now our laws and institutions are the only things left protecting us from the artificial world.